everybody, welcome to a Friday edition of Spits and Suds. And you know what Friday means? It means our NHL Insider. Let's go down. I feel like I'm a scribe opening and listing this following resume. EP Ringside, Shap Shots, which is his Substack, D Magazine, The Detroit News, 2 books that he's written, as well as now being in the latest hockey movie, which is out and you can get on Amazon. He is Sean Shapiro, the Beast. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Gavin. I'm doing really well today. It's yesterday I think was one of my favorite like sports days of the year between I was telling you I got to watch some of this on the flight last night, but yesterday was great. Kind of you watch the golf in the morning, and they watched golf in the morning, and then flipped over to the Frozen Four with the and then good slate of NHL games. Yesterday was one of my ideal sports days of the year for me. So I'm in a really good mood right now.
That's great. Unfortunately, you did get to see that the Dallas Stars got, put it in quotation, bonesed last night, I think is a good description of what happened.
Yeah, it's I mean that's
Rick Bowness hockey, right?
That's Rick Bowness hockey right there, right? That's Rick Bowness hockey right there. And it's also, it happened with Laurent Brossoit and that as opposed to Connor Hellebuck too. So it's kind of one of those funny things though, where like I'm watching all these games last night, and this is game 80, or was it game 80 or game 79? That was game. I want to make sure I'm accurate on our show here.
Yeah.
That was game 80,
yep,
right?
Game 80.
And it's funny to me seeing the reaction, and this happened both in the team leading the West, Dallas, and then last night the team leading the East, the Rangers, got their teeth kicked in a little bit by Philadelphia. And it was funny to kind of see the two teams that are jockeying for the President's Trophy right now, and to see kind of like the referendum and worry and everything like that. And it was just kind of like, to me, it's one of those kind of moments where I come in and I can't help but laugh this morning, because I know there's a lot of Stars fans who are going to overreact to a 3-0 loss to the Jets. When you look across the country, the exact same thing is happening to the Rangers right now after one game, where I've seen all these Rangers fans overly react to one loss to the Flyers. So it's a funny thing just to kind of see. I think it's also the mark of a good team when you have a team this good and you can nitpick over how a bad game 80 is a mark of a good team too. So I'll let you get me back on track, but that's kind of what I was laughing this morning, seeing reactions across the board for the two top teams in each conference right now.
Well, I mean, as I said on the post game last night, your and my friend Robert Tiffin joined us. And in his great words, I think Sean Shapiro might have pitched a shutout last night. So big compliment to you as a goaltender. Yeah. I'm not trying to take anything away from Brossoit. I think he's had a really good year. But I'm just going to say this, like, congratulations on Winnipeg for a goaltender tandem. But, don't dismiss Connor Hellebuck not playing. That was a break that, would have been nice the Stars could take advantage of. I'm like I'm like you. I'm not in panic mode. I'm not, great season, storming through the playoffs. I mean, it's one of those stats that they post on NHL.com. And I do think we should look at it every once in a while, and that's last 10. How are they doing in their last 10? And Dallas has been dominant. So you're going to lose, not to mention this wasn't the Ottawa Senators coming in. This was a team that is fighting for playoff position. Home games are important in Winnipeg, and now they have an amazing tilt on Saturday afternoon against Colorado. I was on in Winnipeg yesterday, previewing the game. See, Shapiro, you're not the only one. So no, I was on in Winnipeg, and it was really interesting because, the urgency and after the game. That was the talk of, that was probably Winnipeg's most complete performance. So you got a team fighting for playoff. You have a team that in Winnipeg, they think was one of their best games of the year. So, it happens.
Do you know? I'm guessing you probably may have looked at it, but do you know if you go look at last 10 right now, which who right now across the NHL, if you were to pull last 10 games,
Ooh,
which NHL team has the most, which NHL teams have the most points in their last 10 games?
I would say Dallas would be there. Would I be right on
Dallas
that?
had, yep, Dallas. So Dallas has 16
Yep.
right now. And that is the only team with more. The Islanders also have 16 in their last. The only team with more right now is the Red Hot Pittsburgh Penguins, who have
Yes.
17, but actually have one less win than Dallas, but they have three overtime losses in there as well. But yeah, it is the Stars are like people are going to look at like, oh, they lost 3-0 to the Jets. They're going to go into the playoffs. Every other fan base is looking at Dallas and be like, geez, I hope we avoid them. Like that's it's
Right.
kind of funny that is everyone else wants to avoid the Stars. And I guess when you're in your own house, sometimes you forget what it's like for the other people walking by on the street.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely you're right. I mean, it was a dud. We need to call it, what it is. And
Yeah.
Winnipeg's style really caught up to the Stars. I will say this. I thought Winnipeg kind of changed compared to what we saw during the other games of the regular season. I thought they came really hard after the Stars defensemen and made the forwards work early, and the defensemen. And at times, the Stars, especially in the first period, were trying to flip it out of the zone just to get it out of the zone. In the third period, granted, it was Bones hockey, a little bit more laid back, and the Stars started to get some chances, but really couldn't get any momentum. Even the passes just weren't as crisp as we're used to seeing on this amazingly talented Dallas Stars team. So, I thought it was interesting that Winnipeg said, you know what, we haven't done this as much, but we're going to go hard at the Dallas defensemen.
Yeah, and it's Winnipeg like people Rick Bowness hockey. I know it's one of those things where people get frustrated when you're playing it sometimes because it's not sexy, it's not exciting all the time, but Rick Bowness is a better coach than I think people in Dallas properly gave him credit for. He is a he just has to have you have to what you're signing up for with him. And I also think he's actually a decent enough I think he's a decent enough he can be a decent game manager at times. I don't think he's the greatest head coach. I think there's a reason he's
Sure.
been kind of um more of I think I've done it before on the show. I've compared him kind of to like the Wade Phillips of hockey, right? Where
Yeah.
really great coordinator, really great thing, but maybe not the best head coach.
Right.
But he's still smart hockey mind. He knows what he's doing, especially against that Dallas team. I would like to me, and I saw Colorado in person on Tuesday night against Minnesota, right? I I am fascinated. Obviously, number one for me watching these playoffs, round one is going to be this Dallas series against either Vegas or probably Vegas now, depending on what happens, either Dallas or Vegas, or maybe Dallas, LA. But that Winnipeg Colorado series, the chess match the Jets will go through to try to at least contain Nathan McKinnon because I saw him play on Tuesday night. And like for me right now, Nathan McKinnon's my MVP. This is just
I agree.
he's that good. He's that scary right now. Like to me, he's kind of the closest thing to and tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, Gavin. And I wrote about this on Tuesday on Wednesday morning. To me, I grew up as a kid. I was a kid in the 90s, and for me, even on standard definition televisions, Mario Lemieux was must-see television.
Yes.
Like Wayne Gretzky, obviously, for Wayne Gretzky was great, right? But Wayne Gretzky was he played chess and he played chess while everyone else was playing checkers. And his
Yes.
greatness sometimes wasn't the physical presence. Where Mario Lemieux, he was so fast, he was so big. He was just the person who you just kind of were in awe at watching him skate. And that to me is kind of how McKinnon is. And McDavid too, but McKinnon's a little bit bigger than McDavid. And to me, that's what watching McKinnon is like. And I'm fascinated to see the chess match that goes between the Winnipeg and Colorado series when how do you try to contain McKinnon? do you try to, because you're talking about a forward that plays 25 minutes a night.
Yep.
You can't just match up on him. You got to figure out, are you going to try to throw your checking line him? Are you going to try to go strength on strength for a bit? That series is going to be A, really fun, and B, from a Dallas perspective, it's awesome that those two teams are going to beat the crap out of each other for 7 games.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. There are a limited number of players, and the NHL is such a skilled league, but at the same time, when McDavid's on the ice, you can tell. When McKinnon's on the ice, you can tell. I'll even go one more. I would say, and he really isn't talked about a lot, but I notice when Matthew Barzal is on the ice. So there are certain players that I just feel like they're playing at a different speed, and it's amazing that they play defense-like minutes. But You're right. I am 100% in your corner. Nathan McKinnon is the reason, because the other thing is the adversity that Colorado's dealt with this year, which I think should propel you to the MVP, because basically you put this team on your shoulders. No Landeskog. Nichushkin out for a long time. They've suffered from injuries throughout the year to some of their stars, and Nathan McKinnon has just been consistent. So totally on board with you there. All right, my friend, what do we do with goaltending situation? If you were Pete DeBoer, would you play Wedgwood, or would you wait until Wednesday? Or do you just continue with Ottinger? I brought this up last night. I mean, it was a dud of a game, but once again, Jake Ottinger giving up, 2 goals or less.
So this is the spot where I honestly, I would get Jake Ottinger's opinion. There's a lot of times I just want to let the coach take decisions out of the goalie's mind and everything like that. But to me, this is one of those where you basically, it's not locked up yet, but it's pretty much locked up. You're going to be a 1 seed. You're going to be hosting. I want my best version of Jake Ottinger for game 1 of the playoffs. That's what I want. And I love where his games played is at right now. I love that it's at 51. I think I've been very vocal on this podcast before that I don't think he should ever play more than 55 regular season games, so you can get the best version of him for potentially 75 total games with the playoff run. I'm basically going to Jake Ottinger on this of, okay, Jake, what do you need to be your best for game 1 of the playoffs? If Jake Ottinger says, hey, I want them both, I give them both to Jake Ottinger. If Jake Ottinger says, you know what, I want one of them, I split them. If he says, you know what, the body's feeling good, let's rest up and do that. This is one of those where I think with the Stars have the luxury spot here where you can go to Jake Ottinger and you can ask him, how do we make sure you are the best version of yourself for game 1? And I think that would be my play as a coach right now going into this. It's not my decision. I'm going to trust the goalie to make the best call on this one for me on this one, actually. Very rarely do I give full control to the goalie on that, but I would in this case.
Yeah, that's a great answer. One of the other things that happened last night was some questions post-game regarding Nils Lundkvist. And you could tell from DeBoer's reactions. First off, I said it last night, Sean, tons of credit for asking the questions. Absolutely. Because I think one of the things is that reporters have a job to do, but to me, this was also reporters doing their job and asking questions that I think Stars fans have been wondering. And I think from the reaction, we can all tell that we all knew Hakanpää was going to be back in the lineup, but really didn't want to go into why Nils Lundkvist is or is not playing, didn't want to talk about what is prohibiting Nils Lundkvist from getting regular minutes or just as many minutes as other, including coming out and saying, basically I'm making coaching decisions, which I think is best for the team at this point heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, here's the thing. I get people wanting to ask these questions and everything. I'm starting to get sick of the Nils Lundkvist discourse, just honestly. Like I get people want answers and they want to ask, and people ask the questions, and good on media for asking last night. But we're talking about a sixth defenseman who is not going to play in the playoffs. When Yanni Hakanpää is healthy, he's going to play. And this isn't a surprise anymore. Like I'm just starting to feel like to me, Nils Lundkvist has never gone and proven to Pete DeBoer that he should be an everyday player. And Pete DeBoer may not have given him all of the opportunities, Pete DeBoer, but at the same time, and this is nothing against, like, this is, I get sick of young defenders getting everyone, this is very old man yelling, "Get off my lawn." Happened with Julius Honka. Thomas Harley went and took it. Okay, like what was the whole Texas Rangers slogan when they won the title? Go and take it and everything like that,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, obviously, it's the like Thomas Harley went and took it. He went and we made no excuses. He stood up. He found a role, and you know what? He seized an opportunity. Nils Lundkvist is incredibly sheltered, spends more time in the offensive zone than anyone, doesn't play hockey offensively well enough to steal a power play spot, and when he does get chances in the defensive zone, he gets rocked. Like, I just don't. I've lost time for the debate on the Nils Lundkvist thing because I don't think he's earned me fighting for him to play the way some people fight for him to be in the lineup. And B, it's an argument over who the sixth defenseman is. And it just shows how deep this team is at the same time. The Lundkvist question is just, the fact it continues to draw on and be a point of debate and everything like that is, I love that people are passionate about all the minor details of this hockey team, but I'm just starting to get like, if it's Yanni Hakanpää or Nils Lundkvist in the lineup in game one of the playoffs, that's not going to be the difference. Yanni Hakanpää versus Nils Lundkvist is not going to be the difference between whether the Stars win or lose the Stanley Cup. If Nils Lundkvist is in the lineup in the playoffs, he's going to play 8 minutes. If Yanni Hakanpää is in the lineup in the playoffs, he's going to play 12 minutes and he's going to kill some penalties, and he's going to be fine in that role. This whole debate, this whole wringing our hands out about Nils Lundkvist and spilling all the ink and everything like it. There's so many other things that could be written and talked about with this team. And I'm just sick of reading so many things about, who should the sixth defenseman be? I'm sure everyone else, I mean, it's like, that's my soapbox right now. Like, I get it. I get you want to hear about it. I get that. But at the same day, there's so many other things about this team that are so much more interesting and can play into and figure this. Let's talk more about Wyatt Johnston. Let's talk more about Logan Stankoven. Let's talk about those things as opposed to the guy who is untrusted and sheltered. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was just glad. I'm ready to move on.
And good. I'm glad you are. This is not yelling at you, Gavin.
No.
Me yelling. Me yelling it out to the universe. So
no, but I'm glad because I watch the post games all the time, and I think there's been a lot of talk about it on Twitter X, but I think, to me, I was glad that at least the question was asked so that Pete DeBoer could answer it. Now I know where we stand. And I have said on multiple podcasts, my fear of Hakanpää Suter, and hopefully they prove me wrong, is, they're much bigger, but the quickness to get out of their zone as well as far as puck carrying, because I felt as though Yanni Hakanpää struggled specifically on 5-5 when he has to carry the puck.
Okay. Let me bring this up to you, just this one counter. And I think they need to upgrade over Yanni Hakanpää. I'm not saying that they don't, but let me put it this way, okay? You're worried about Yanni Hakanpää and getting the puck out of the zone. Nils Lundkvist is never in the defensive zone. Like, so they play two different jobs, right? So like Nils Lundkvist starts last night, I looked through the end of the second period of his 8 shifts. He had started 3 in the offensive zone, 1 in the neutral zone, and 2 on the fly. He only had 1 defensive zone start. That's it. If Nils Lundkvist doesn't get the opportunity, in his usage, to show us that he actually can get out of the zone consistently, the Stars should be the the shot attempts and everything like that, they should be heavily in the Stars' favor when Nils Lundkvist is on the ice. Yanni Hakanpää doesn't get that opportunity. I'm fine with, and I just when you say like, oh, I'm worried about them getting out of the zone or anything like that with Hakanpää in there, that's fine. But it's not that you're giving those minutes to Nils Lundkvist. It's all of a sudden it's like, okay, I now have to put more wear and tear on Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley and Chris Tanev and everything and Tanev and everything like that in the playoffs. That's the thing you have to remember when you call for that. And this is not just to you, Gavin, this is to everyone, where you have to realize what these players are, because if they play Vegas in the first round, which they likely will, I know Vegas is fast, but the way Vegas just gives the puck up and chases it down, Nils Lundkvist is going to be in the 5th row behind the net. Like, he's just going to get clobbered. Yeah. And I'm not always a big size guy. You're typically that guy on the show. You're the guy who says, we need size, we need strength.
Yep, it's me.
Like I would, Nils Lundkvist to me, if I'm Bruce Cassidy, I would immediately circle anytime Nils Lundkvist is on the ice, dump the puck in his zone, just run him to the boards.
Yeah. So well, and listen, this isn't like I'm not going to throw like a major analytic out to support this. I'm just going to go with my eyes. I feel as though, and I asked Robert about this last night, and we talked a little bit about it. I think if there is a book on the Stars and they're a terrific, team, I'm not taking anything away from them because they can come at you and they keep coming at you, and that's what the players that oppose them say throughout the year. If I was coaching the opposing team, I would do exactly what Winnipeg did last night. I would do exactly what Vegas did in the Western Conference Finals. Heavy hitting, hard forecheck, make that Stars team work so hard to get out of their zone that it neutralizes their speed. And if you can, do that along with clogging the neutral zone. I know it's a lot to ask, and I know that's not, that's easier said than done. But to me, that would be the game plan going against this Stars team.
Yeah. It is you want to take away their speed. You want to do that. You want to make them play ugly hockey. And that's smart coaching. Someone's going to do that. And the Stars are also going to have to find ways to win some of the ugly games. I think a perfect example of this currently in present day hockey right now is before we came on the air, Gavin, we were talking about the Frozen Four. University of Denver University it's technically University of Denver, even though it's said to DU. It's very weird, but whatever. It's anywho, Denver, highest scoring team in college hockey this year, coming into the NCAA tournament against UMass, against BU last night, and I can't remember who the other team is. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this right now, but they got pulled into. They had not, before the NCAA tournament, Denver had not won a game yet this year where they scored less than 3 goals. In the 3 NCAA tournament games, Denver has won 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. It's a college hockey example, smaller sample size, whatever. But to me, that's a good encapsulation of the Stars are very much a Denver type team. Puck possession, attack with speed. But come playoff time, you're going to have to find a way to win some of those 2-1 games.
Yeah.
Be ready for it. And that's what teams are going to try to pull you into. And honestly, if the Jets game last night, that could be a game plan, a footprint, a blueprint other teams are going to use when they try to play Dallas in the playoffs. I would. So it's definitely something to be ready for.
Yeah, absolutely. But isn't it nice we're talking about the President's Trophy and possibly going to grab it?
Yes. This is the thing where it's like I obviously people know I do a lot of other things with in the Red Wings world, being here in the Detroit area, and like the problems the Stars have that other fan bases would kill to have is amazing to me. Like, you could be in a spot where like it's a great thing to talk about. We're going to be having some playoff hockey conversation where we are roughly 8 days, probably 9 days if I do the rough math, till a Stars playoff game.
Right.
The fact of the matter is the Stars play their last game Wednesday. The NHL playoffs technically start next Saturday, but There's all Western Conference games on Thursday, including LA and Vegas. So I'm assuming that they would not make LA or Vegas play game 1 48 hours after game 82. So I'm assuming the Stars will open the playoffs at the AAC. I'd have to double check the schedule, but I'm assuming that April 21st, they will be game 1 at the AAC. This is me just...
Yeah. The fact that people are cup or bust in this city.
Yeah.
Those are high expectations. There aren't many teams in the NHL where you're like, if I don't win the Stanley Cup this year, it's a disappointment. And I also want Stars fans to take a look back at the bubble. And I know it was different and we didn't have full houses and everything. So that Stars team, you had a lot of veterans on that team. And then you had a young Jake Ottinger watching from the bubble. And Jason Robertson hadn't come really on the scene yet. And then all of a sudden, now you're interjecting those guys. And then you go to the Western Conference Finals and Wyatt Johnston. Wow, this kid is breaking out. Oh, Thomas Harley plays 19 playoff games. Wow, that's cool. And then now you're looking at this year's team, however far they get, and you say to yourself, whoa, the likely AHL MVP is coming up that we just saw for a game. And, oh, yeah, we have this defenseman who's playing like a beast in Sweden that could possibly, if he has a good summer playing for his national team, could also be one of our defensemen for the future starting next year, even if he starts the season in Texas. Like, that's not a regular thing as far as the NHL with teams defending as far as like going for the cup, and expectations are that they should go to the cup or the Western Conference Finals. And, oh, yeah, this absolute thrust of young talent coming into the league and playing for you. That's my soapbox.
The Stars are a model franchise in the NHL right now.
They're Detroit when Jim Nill was with Detroit now.
Yeah. The Stars are a model franchise. The amount, if you go out, if you leave your Stars bubble, if people listening right now, if you leave your Stars bubble and you go and you jump into any other fan base or you talk about anything else, or you take a look at nationally, with what the Stars have done between their current roster build and their prospect pool and everything like that, there's very few spots you would want to trade. You would be like, oh, I'll trade my situation with you. There's very few NHL other fan bases that would, most NHL fan bases would trade to have what the Stars have right now. And it's impressive. I mean, it's one of the things that, like, it shows to me that there is a, like, you haven't won a cup yet, right? You haven't won a cup since 99. And it's one of the things that I think will always be the interesting spot about Jim Nill's long-term legacy in Dallas. But I think even if Nill didn't win a cup in Dallas, I still think his legacy would be pretty well intact for what the Stars have done, right? This is a team that has kind of gone through some ups and downs and found ways to really stay a model NHL franchise, even when maybe even internally they've made some mistakes. I'm not trying to just gush about the team, Gavin, but I sometimes feel like I have to give a little bit more credit than they get, because sometimes, so much times in sports, there's the negative of, well, they haven't done this or like, I just feel like I sometimes have to push back against it.
No, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned Jim Nill. Let's take the 2021 NHL draft. First round, Wyatt Johnston. Second round, Logan Stankoven. Third round, no longer a part of the team, but was in Texas, traded in a main piece to get Chris Tanev. That's one draft.
Yep.
So, and I was, when Jim Nill and his crew started, after a few years, I was critical of some of the picks. But I also think you have to raise your hand and say, wow, that scouting department's on fire right now. Absolute fire. They're producing massive prospects in the NHL, which they can use for chips, or like they're doing, they're going to have to turn some of these guys over as far as moving on for some veterans with some tough decisions, because they need the money to pay a Wyatt Johnston. So that was a really good discussion. Moving to the NHL, maybe, I know he's talked about a lot, Sean, but at the same time, I mean, kudos. Sidney Crosby, 1,000 assists. Just absolutely gets it done, and we should never doubt a Sidney Crosby team. The turnaround that they've made after the trade that they made, and everyone thought they were going to be done for 4 or 5 years, and they might not make the playoffs, but just absolutely on a heater to make this a good playoff race in the East.
I have immense respect for what Crosby and the Penguins are doing right now. I feel like I need to also add the quick point of context where the only reason they're in this race is because of how everyone else around them has faltered, right? Like
True.
It's to the fact the Flyers, Wings, Capitals, the fact that they've been all so bad the last month and a half, that to me needs to be mentioned when you're talking about Crosby, and then we can properly give him his flowers, because it is, take nothing away from what he's doing. I'm not trying to, but I do think that context is important, because he could just be on this heater right now and it could mean nothing, but it only means something more because of what the other teams around the Penguins have done. And he's a top 5 player of all time. And I think to me, that's one of those things where whether you like the Penguins or not, that's something where when you're watching kind of greatness and you're watching how it plays out, it's important to stop and remember it, because this is, at some point, Father Time gets everyone. And at some point, it'll get Crosby too, just like we talked about Pavelski and Dallas and everything like that. But to me, it's been fun to enjoy. Like that Detroit-Pittsburgh game last night was one of the games of the year. It was a wild game, great game. And to see things he does still, he's also never been, the other interesting thing about Crosby too has been like, he's never been much of like the personal record chaser. And not that I don't have an issue with people chasing personal records. I think it's fine. I think it's part athletic success and excellence is important. But it's been interesting too, where it's like, I don't think with like all of Crosby's achievements somehow seem understated every time. Like he gets 1,000 assists, and we're like, oh yeah, I expected Sidney Crosby to have 1,000 assists. Yeah. Like it's like I'm like you realize how high the bar is for this guy when I'm casually like, oh yeah, I knew he'd get 1,000. Like there's only like 4 guys in NHL history that have that many.
Yeah.
So I think,
I mean, all-time great. And I don't want to say we take him for granted, Sean, because I mean, clearly he's one of the bigger stars in the NHL, but I do think you're right. Every once in a while, it's like, oh yeah. All right. And on that note, kind of joking here, will you forgive all of my Julius Honka takes in return, since I predicted Michael Bunting was going to be a beast in Pittsburgh? You know I'm getting on that soapbox, right?
We were all wrong about Julius Honka, so let's just we can all accept that.
Good point.
We can all accept that. But yes, Bunting has been that's been quite a I'll admit it, that was a surprise for me. I mean, the fact that he's kind of clicked that way.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny. We could see. It depends on what happens with like Islanders Pittsburgh play game 82 against each other.
Wow,
that game could be to decide. Yeah. Originally, I thought it might be decide who gets in. I think it might be to decide who gets to play Carolina in the first round.
Yeah. No, you're right. Heading down the stretch, as much as like, excited for the game tomorrow. I'll be at the AAC. I'm definitely DVRing Colorado, Winnipeg. That is a fun thing to watch. All right. Also in the NHL, Connor McDavid kind of stuck at 99 assists. And if he gets to 100, he'd be the only 4th player to do it in NHL history, or Gretzky, Lemieux. Gretzky did it several times. I mean, just those names alone. What year do we consider Connor McDavid an all-time great?
I mean, I think he already is
Okay.
considered an all-time. I think it's fair to already consider him an all-time great. He's the type of guy who, if for whatever reason decided to walk away from the game tomorrow, right, he would still go into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think that's completely fair. I mean, he's got the wild thing about McDavid. Actually, I want to look this up real quick. And this is a so okay, yeah. The wild thing about McDavid is like he's already at 650 games, 643 games played. I don't think people realize how much hockey he's already played. Like he's only 20 points away from 1,000 for his career already. He's he's gonna early next season he will be at 1,000 points. It is like I gushed about McKinnon earlier and everything like that, but like McDavid is he's incredible to
Yeah.
watch. So I hope he gets 100. I hope he gets that 100 assists because it's a cool number and everything like that. Um, it's also it'd be kind of cool too with like from a stat perspective, right? Like this year his 99 he's got 99 assists, right? The 10th leading scorer in the league, William Nylander, has 96 points. So if McDavid had 0 goals this year, he would still be top 10 in points for the league. Same goes with Kucherov too. Like it's just it's it's cool to see kind of what's happening with these three guys at the top that are going to kind of be there for that in that
Yeah.
Hart Trophy conversation between Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid. It's a cool time to be a hockey fan right now. Just I think we should just acknowledge that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we pulled a Spits and Suds stat, so hopefully I'm right. I'm a single guy, so I had nothing else to do. The Stars have 8 or more 20 plus, sorry, 8 20 plus or more goal scorers. The last time that was done and a team won the Stanley Cup was the early 70s Bruins, so a long time. So I thought that was fascinating that different time now, but at the same time, I was shocked that the Bruins going back, and they had 8 at the time, but there were a lot of teams above them with 8 or more goal scorers that didn't end up winning the cup.
I mean, I would imagine. I mean, it's a rarity, right? So like to have 8 20 goal scorers,
It's
that's one thing.
amazing.
That's an achievement in itself, right? Like I don't know if you pulled total on it, but I can't imagine you rarely find a team this deep, right?
Yeah.
And it also shows how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup too, right? Like that's another part of it too. Um, to me, I go a step further. The fact that you have 8 20 goal scorers and then you have a defenseman who has 15
Yeah.
right there is that shows depth to me. And
Yeah.
you're talking about getting a like I almost combine Logan Stankoven and Evgeny Dadonov into another 20 goal scorer, right? Like if you like I think like let's see, like technically at their games played, technically if you combine Dadonov and Stankoven's points into one, they would have 18 combined goals in 72 games. So like it's almost like another one where you had your one replacement go out where Dadonov might have reached 20 goals this year if he stayed healthy
Yep.
and Stankoven didn't take his place. So it's a good problem to have, isn't it?
It sure is. Also, a very good, I don't even want to say a problem because it's not a problem, is 4.5 stars on Amazon for Sean Shapiro's hockey movie, The Late Game, which you can rent over the weekend. I just wanted to point that out. That's impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It is it's been a fun. We were actually I was in Denver this week for we did on Tuesday night I was at the Avs Wild game doing some work for both my own site Shap Shots and doing some EP Rinkside stuff, and then Wednesday night we did a nice event with because our writer both our writer and director Jeff Tyner, who we've had on the show before, is based in Denver, and so is our executive producer Jeffrey M. Zucker was on, and they're both based in Denver. So we did kind of a Denver showing with and did like a nice little charity event with some of the Avs alumni thing, and so it's kind of cool to see that audience and some other people watch the movie on Wednesday night. And as I've told the Jeffs that we need to get Dallas on the docket sooner than later, and we will.
Sure do.
And Gavin and I have already texted and chatted about some of those ideas in the background, and hopefully at some point here. The nice thing about Dallas, Gavin, is when we talk about it, and this is just the reality, you're talking about a team where you got a long spring of hockey-related things that it can fit with. So that's a good time. It's a good time of year for Dallas.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, I was envisioning a time in the future where, you come to town, we get Castillo, we get Tiffin, we'll get Luds, and we just kind of hold a forum and talk hockey as well. Because I think that would be, or we do a happy hour or something like that, have some Frosties and just, enjoy the Spits and Suds listeners. I mean, I want to give back because you guys have meant so much as far as the growth of this show. So when we get feedback, and it's really cool because people in the hockey community are noticing too. And, that's super cool. And I appreciate it. It was really funny, Sean, when I was on Winnipeg Sports Talk yesterday, and there's a message board that you can watch, and I was reading it afterwards, and they were asking me about the program, and I was talking about, co-hosting with you and co-hosting with Craig Ludwig, and the message just all of a sudden, shin pads. I mean, hockey fans, man, the recall is absolutely amazing. So it's really cool. So stick tap to you, my friend. Stick tap to all the listeners out there. Hopefully we will be able to celebrate after tomorrow's tilt, and hopefully we go on to, and I say I was criticized for that, the Stars go on to win the Western Conference. Am I allowed to say we?
It is like, here's the thing about media and we and everything like that. This is a podcast where we, Sean and Gavin, our job here is to talk about the Stars and break things down. But at the end of the day, I think I hate when we overly gatekeep people from being fans and covering the team at the same time. Like, Gavin, you go to the games, you're a season ticket holder. Yeah. Enjoy it, man. Yeah. Like that's the type of thing. Like I think I used to be, I don't know. You asked me this question 10 years ago, I probably would have been a little bit on my fresh out of journalism school, high horse, big J journalism. Yeah. I don't root for anything. I'm a robot. And you got to have fun with life, man. Right? Like this show, we're going to do this show, whether the Stars are good or bad.
Right.
It's more fun when they're good. Well, we can call it like it is. That's fine. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening to this and you're going to the game tomorrow and you want to meet up, I'm happy to get you a Frosty on me as a thank you for listening to Spits and Suds. Sean, you are awesome. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the finals of Denver versus Boston College. That should be an amazing tilt. Super excited to watch that along with Stars hockey. Lots of good hockey coming up, in the next few days. My friend, have a good weekend.
You too, Gavin. It's always a blast.
Absolutely is. Spits and Suds fans, we'll be back tomorrow recapping Dallas, Seattle at the AAC, hopefully talking about the Central Division title. I'm Gavin Spittle. Have a great day, everyone.